Lesson 3. The structure and functions of the spine. At the end of this lesson, you will be able to describe the structure of the spinal column and identify the functions of the spine. The spine, also known as the vertebral column or the spinal column or the backbone. It is made up of 33 irregular bones which are separated by intervening layers of cartilage which are called intervertebral discs. When viewed from the side, as you can see here, the spine shows 4 curves. The cervical region, which is the region of the neck. The thoracic region, which extends from the base of the neck to mid-back. The lumbar region, which makes up the lower back. The sacrum, which is at the base of the lumbar region. We can see it more clearly here from the back. And at the base of the sacrum is the coccyx, or the tailbone. So let's take a closer look at each of these regions of the spine. The cervical region is made up of 7 vertebrae, from C1 to C7. C1 here is also known as the atlas. C2 is also known as the axis. These 2 vertebrae form a pivot joint, which allows for greater movement of the head. The remainder of the vertebrae of the cervical region from C3 down to C7 are linked by the discs of intervening cartilage called the intervertebral discs. These allow movement of the head and bending and twisting of the neck. The next region of the spine is the thoracic region. This region is made up of 12 vertebrae from T1 all the way down to T12. Again, we have our intervening vertebral discs between each of the vertebrae, so these will allow for some movement, some bending and twisting of the spine. However, movement is limited as the main function of the thoracic region is to support the rib cage. Each of the ribs are attached individually onto the corresponding vertebra. So the first pair of ribs here will be attached onto C1, the second pair will be attached onto C2, and so on all the way down along onto C12. At the front of the body, the anterior view, the ribs are attached to the sternum. This means then that the vertebrae of the thoracic region are much more limited because of these attachments. The lumbar region of the spine is made up of 5 vertebrae from L1, which is highlighted here, down to L5. These vertebrae are the largest and the strongest in the spinal column. The sacrum at the base of the lumbar region is made up of 5 fused vertebrae. The sacrum is positioned between the 2 iliac crests at the back of the pelvis, and it links the upper body to the lower body via the sacroiliac joint, which is the joint here where the sacrum meets the iliac crest. This joint aids with the distribution and transmission of weight of the body down onto the hips and the legs. At the base of the sacrum then is the coccyx, otherwise known as the tailbone. This is made up of 4 fused vertebrae, so again, independent movement is not possible by the coccyx, but it does move in relation to the sacrum. It's also an important attachment point for various muscles. The intervertebral discs, which lie between each of the vertebrae, act like a cushion to protect the surfaces of the bones above and below, so they help to reduce friction during movement. They also help to absorb shock as it is transmitted through the spine during movement. The discs themselves are made up of strong outer layer of cartilaginous material. The inner centre then, or nucleus, is made up of a jelly-like substance. If this strong outer layer becomes injured or damaged, the jelly-like centre can seep or leak through towards the rim, causing a bulge to form, which in turn can place pressure on nerves leaving the spine. This is what we call a herniated disc. Here you can see the network of nerves which originate from the spinal cord. The spinal cord is part of the central nervous system. It's highlighted here in blue, and it runs down the centre of the vertebral column from the brain. And from this central spinal cord, all of the other nerves of the body originate. The vertebral column helps to protect the spinal cord from injury and damage. So let's review that again. The spine is made up of 5 regions. At the neck area we have the cervical region. This is made up of 7 vertebrae, C1 to C7. C1 is also known as the atlas, while C2 is also known as the axis. The second region then is the thoracic region. This is made up of the thoracic vertebra from T1 to T12. The third region is the lumbar region, made up of the lumbar vertebra L1 to L5. The sacrum is made up of 5 fused vertebrae. And finally, the coccyx is made up of 4 fused vertebrae. In between each of the vertebrae are the intervertebral discs. These are composed of a strong cartilaginous material on the outside with a softer jelly-like centre. These discs are flexible in order to allow movement. They also help to protect the surface of the bones from friction, and they help to absorb shock transmitted along the spine during movement. The functions of the spine. The cervical vertebrae allow movement of the head and bending and twisting of the neck. C1, also known as the atlas, supports the weight of the head. The thoracic vertebrae. Their main function is to support the rib cage. And because the ribs are attached at both thoracic vertebra and onto the sternum in front, movement is more limited in this area. However, a certain amount of bending and rotation is possible. The lumbar region will allow bending and rotation of the trunk. The sacrum connects the spine to the pelvis via the sacroiliac joint. It helps to transmit the weight of the body down onto the hips and legs. The coccyx acts as an attachment point for certain muscles. And finally, the spine also provides protection for the spinal cord.